So hi guys, welcome back to my channel QA Warriors, and today it is the second part of the SQL interview questions, and today we are going to see the constraint in SQL. So this is also one of the most important question that is asked mostly in all the manual testing interviews and the database or the ETL testing interviews. So let's see what exactly is the constraint. So a constraint literally means the rules or the regulation that is applied to a table in order to make sure that whatever data that is entered into the table is correct. So as you can see, the definition here written over it tells that SQL constraints are used to specify rules for the data in a table, and constraints are used to limit the type of data that can go into a table. So let me give you a small example. Like for example, if I have a column in a table called gender, and I want user to add only three values, that is M, F, and U. M stands for male, F stands for female, and U stands for unknown. So now I don't want the user who is entering the data of either from the UI or from the database. I don't want them to enter any other value apart from M, F, and U. Now here the interview question comes. The interviewer will ask you about the types of constraint. They will ask you to name all the constraint that are present, and sometimes they will ask you one or two constraint, what that literally means. And it is very rare that they will ask you to write any SQL query for that. So you have to remember all the names of the constraint. So first is not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check, default, and index. Let's see all these constraints one by one. So first is not null. So what a not null constraint does is that it will restrict the user not to accept any null values. For example, if there is any column where the uh, value is required, for example, you can see that first name and last name, or ID, or you can say the salutation, that is Mr. Mrs. So if that is a required field, and if you have set that field as not null, so the user or the person who is entering the data into the database will not be able to enter that particular data into the table unless and until they provide the value for these three columns. So how you will restrict the user in order to not to put null values in these column is that you can see in the example create table person. Here the name of the column is ID, the data type is int and not null. So we have made this column as not null. User will have to supply some value for this column in order to populate the value into the database. Similarly, for the last name, you can see it has varchar 255 characters, not null. First a name, varchar 255 not null, and age is int. So in age, we have not put any constraint, and age is here a optional field. It's on your wish whether you want to supply value to the in age column or if you not. Second is unique constant. Unique constant, what it generally tells is that all the values in this column should be different. So uh, I can tell that yes, both unique and the primary key both uh, will ensure that the data in a particular column should be unique. So they generally they are used to ensure the uniqueness for a particular column or the data in a particular column. So how you will enforce this unique constraint? So what we generally do is that here you can see that we have made this ID int not null and unique. So we have enforced a rule here that this column will not be null and the value here should be unique. Last name, it is not null. First name, as there is no constraint, so it is an optional field. and age again is a optional field here. Now the third constraint, that is the primary key constraint. So the primary key constraint uniquely identify each row in a table, and as I have already told that yes, primary key contains unique values and cannot contain null values. And you can see here that we have made the primary key. You can see here for this table, create table person. So we have provide or enforced these not null, this not null constraint here, but we have made this ID as the primary key. So this is how you will be declaring primary key constraint in the for a particular column in a table. Now, second is a foreign key. So, foreign key, what it is a primary key in one of the table and it acts as a foreign key in the another table. So, you can see here it is the first line. It says that it is used to link two tables together, and uh, foreign key is a field in one table that refers to the primary key in another table. And how we generally create this table means how we generally enforce this foreign key is uh, for example you can see here primary key order ID here order ID is the primary key and person ID is the foreign key references person again here person is the table name and person ID is the name of the column. So this was all about the foreign key. Now we are seeing about the check constant. So what this check constant usually do? So check constant is used to limit the value range. Uh, for let me give some example for you. For example, if I have provided a condition to the check constant that for the gender column you should not enter uh, more than one character that is MF and U. So my data or my data table will restrict the user to enter not more than one character. And here you can see that I have taken one example that this check constraint will ensure that the age of person must be 18. So here what you have done is that for ID you have taken the null not null constraint. For last name it is not null constraint. For first name it is again varchar. Age it is again optional, and here we are checking that age is greater than equal to 18. So if you will try to supply age that is less than 18, the table will restrict or the SQL server will restrict you and it will give you error and it will not let you enter any rows in the table. Now again it is a default constraint. So here what it does is that it will help you to provide a default value for any column. Okay, so uh, if there is no value, so it will provide a default value. So now here we will see that you can see here that if the user will not provide any value, so it will throw error. So user will have to provide value here for ID because it is not null. Last name as it is not null here you have to provide. For first name it is varchar that is optional field. Age again it is optional field. But here you can see that city here it's again a default constraint is declared here. It means that if you are not providing any value to this city column, then it will by default populate as sentence. Okay, so this was about the default constraint, and now it is the index constraint. So index constraint, what it actually does, it is used to create indexes in the table. And what this indexes is usually helpful. It helps us to speed up the searches in the queries. Okay, so let's see how we are creating an index. So here we are creating a unique index on a table. So you can see here create unique index, index name on table name column 1 column 2. So here what it is generally doing is that it is creating a unique index, and we are providing the name of the index on the table name and the column that we are using. So this is about the index constraint. Now here I'm summarizing whatever we learned today. So I will repeat once again that most of the interviews you will be asked only to name the constraint, but sometimes if they ask you what this constraint stand for, why it is used, so then you just have to remember that for not null, it will ensure that the column cannot have a null value, and unique, it will ensure that all the values in the column are different. Primary key, like a combination of not null and unique, and foreign key, it uniquely identify a row and record in another table. Check, it will ensure that all values in a column satisfies a specific condition. For example, I told you about the gender column. It will only accept the value M, F, and U, where M stand for male, F stand for female, and U stand for unknown. Default, what it will do, it will set a default value for a column. So for example, if for a certain column, if you are not providing any value, what it will do, it will provide a default value that you are providing during the creation of your table. Now the index is generally used to speed up the queries or speed up the searches that you will be doing. So this is all uh, we saw in this session about the constraint. Hope this session will be helpful, and we will come up with some next video in some coming days. And thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and also share with all the uh, freshers and your friends who are job seeker. So that's all from my side. Thank you. Thanks for watching.